Welcome to the jungle. Y'all ready to unleash your primal power? Today, we're going to be discussing about the secret movement mechanics that bring us back to a deep and innate ancestral knowing. This animalistic nature that all of us have within us, but so many of us lose as we get civilized by our modern day world. As always, I like to begin these trainings by emphasizing the legacy of teachers through which this knowledge came to me, paying homage to the legends that stood before. What I'm going to share with you today has evolved over the last decade through various modalities and lenses. My understanding of this originated with a man named Nadi Aguilar, who developed a modality known as functional patterns. Functional patterns is a concept where exercises emphasize the importance of what he called functional mechanics. Now, to understand functional mechanics, you need to think what makes humans unique in the animal kingdom. Well, we are pretty good at a lot of things. We can swim, but not as well as fish. We can climb, but not as well as monkeys. And we can run, but not as fast as cheetahs. So we have this innate generalist quality about our evolved anatomy. But one thing that does separate us is we stand on our 2 feet. Not many creatures in the animal kingdom evolved for bipedal motion. So if you look back at our ancestors and how they used their body, most of it was for walking, for running, and for hunting. And what makes humans unique is we hunt with tools. So a lot of our early ancestral patterning was using either sticks to throw or rocks to sling in order to aid us in hunting creatures that would otherwise be able to tear us apart with their fingers and claws. We use tools. All involve definable mechanical characteristics. Now there's a big word for this, contralateral reciprocation. But what that essentially means is moving with our opposite hand and foot. So if you got your right hand swinging, your left leg's forward. If you got your right leg forward, your left hand is forward. All of us, whether we've been aware of this or not, have been doing this our whole life. This is the only way to actually move. The reason for this is because we have lines of fascial tension that connect across our body in a big X pattern that slings our right side to our left side, and this is the basis of all athletic potential. So functional patterns was one of the first to popularize this idea of moving in contralateral mechanics to get closer to our evolutionary nature. These ideas evolved through a brilliant movement mad scientist, Uncle Weck, as he used to call himself, David Weck. You may know him as the man who created the Bosu ball, that little half blue circle that you see in gyms all over the world. This man gave the world a gift of one word, the coil, which he used to define the engine-like mechanics of how the spine powers locomotion. Now, this was a controversial idea. The traditional understanding of human biomechanics emphasized the importance of a neutral spine. This idea that when you sprint, when you walk, you should always have this neutrality. Now, I'm going to challenge this idea for you, friends. Let's start by finding a stance. As we practiced before, it's very important to be able to define the architecture. So use what you know, bring your feet underneath your hips, toes in line with heels, little bend of your knees. Now, this neutral spine is a very important center point to learn how to control, especially when you are standing in place and you're moving weight around you. However, it is not somewhere that you want to be stuck in, and I can prove it to you very simply. I want you to keep your head directly centered in between both of your feet and then lift one foot off the floor. Try it. Notice what happens. Your head moves over your standing foot. There's no way around this. So again, whether or not you've been aware of this your entire life, anytime you walked from one place to another, anytime you lift one foot off the floor to move from point A to B, which is what our body is for, you had to create a slight side bend in your spine in order to balance your head over the leg that was holding your weight. So this idea of a neutral spine begins to be questioned. Now, when you add in contralateral reciprocation, this opposite hand and foot mechanic, which is essential for all athleticism, with the slight side bending of your spine that is created from bringing your head over your foot, what you get is this rotational relationship between your shoulder blade and your hip. This is the coil that Weck defined. And coil is so powerful because in that word alone, you begin to understand the nature of what this area of your body does. I'll give you an example. You ever tried to throw a ball like this with your shoulder directly over your hip? There's no power. You have to load the rotation of that coil in order to unload any athletic power. Same with throwing a punch. You ever try to throw a punch without rotating through your body? There's no power. All of these mechanics are already built into sports and athleticism, so if you have any basis of understanding of those things, you're already doing this. So again, we have this slight side bending of our spine from bringing our head over our foot to move. We have this rotation of the torso that naturally comes from bringing our opposite hand and foot together. And then we have this coil that develops from that combination, which is the root of all of our athletic potential. And we are starting to begin to understand the natural patterning of how the human body moves. This goes much deeper. So to take you guys on this journey, I'm going to begin from the feet on up. From the work of Weck, evolved a system of movement known as GOATA, greatest of all time actions. This modality took a lot of Weck's understanding. They looked at athletes and they looked at ancestral tribes as well as animals and babies, and they started to decode these mechanics into very simple cues. 4 words: inside ankle bone high. What I mean by this, if you take a look at the architecture of your foot, there is something going on. There's an arch taking place, or at least there should be. Many people nowadays have developed what is called flat feet, and I'll show you where this comes from. This flat foot happens when you let your inside ankle bone, the inside portion of your ankle, fall inward. Do you see how my foot starts to flatten there? Now, if I lift up from that ankle bone, you'll see the arch of my foot start to naturally come back into place. This is a very slight, innate bit of bodily control, the ability to lift from the inside of that ankle. So I want you to practice that, okay? For a second, all you're gonna do is you're gonna try to lift this part of your foot upwards, like you're pulling on a string. And what you'll begin to notice as you do that is your leg starts to get a little bit more sturdy and supported. If you let that engagement go and your foot collapses inward, you'll see how your knee starts to track inward as well. Now I ask you, what would happen if I kicked the outside of your leg in? It would hurt a lot. However, if I was to push you from the inside going out, you would just roll. You'd be generally pretty safe. So this engagement of lifting up from the inside of your ankle bone creates a much more stable architecture for your whole knee, hip, and body alignment. Animals naturally do this, so this isn't something that they need to train. The reason that we lose a lot of this innate understanding is because we have developed an artificial world where we walk in shoes, which disengage the balancing muscle of our feet, and we walk on a flat 2D surface, which is unrealistic to how we would move in nature, where there's rocks around and sticks and spiky things that you have to pay attention to, roots that you're stepping over. If you walk in this way, you will naturally begin to develop these innate primal patterns we're going over today. Some of you at home may not have been able to find that inside ankle bone engagement, so I'm gonna show you how. Coming on down to the ground. And all I want you to do, my friends, is try to lift this inside part of your foot up to your face in a little scoop. As you do that, I want you to press your knee the opposite direction. So pulling from the inside of your foot, getting a scoop in, and then pressing your knee away. Try to lift and pull there for 5 seconds, okay? As much as you can. For 5, for 4, pull and lift. 3, knee drives, heel lifts. 2, 1. Now take that foot, plant it down to the ground. Try to not lose that engagement of your inside ankle bone. Let's do the other side. Lifting your heel to your face, pressing your knee away. Lift, lift, lift. Turn the knee. For 5, bringing these muscles to life. For 4, for 3, for 2, keep pressing and turning. For 1, try to keep that engagement as you plant the foot down. We're gonna do that one more time each side. Lift your heel to your face. Inside of your heel lifts up. Lift your toe, turn your knee out. turn and lift, turn and lift. Feel the muscles on the insides of your legs begin to fire. Here for 5, 4, 3, 2. Try to keep that connection. Don't lose it as you plant your foot back down to the ground. One more time on the other side. Lift that foot up, turn that knee out, lift your toe to your face. Try to lift that foot. Here for 5, here for 4, here for 3, here for 2, and relax that. All right, guys, let's try to do both of them at the same time. To do this, you're gonna bring your hands behind your back and lift both heels up to your face as your knees turn away. For 5, heels scoop in and up, knees drive out, lift your toes for 4, for 3, for 2, for 1. Are you able to start to feel those muscles on the inside of your ankles come to life? That lifting muscle is so crucial to the stacking of your architecture. All right, now check this out. You're gonna lift your ankles up. Try to keep that lift of your ankles as you plant your feet flat on the ground. Notice if you lose it. With your feet flat, try to lift up from the inside of the ankles and then press your big toe down. What might happen is your big toe might want to lift as your inside ankle bones engage. Press the big toe down as the inside ankle bone lifts. Big toe down, inside ankle bone lifts. Big toe down, inside ankle bone lifts. And you're gonna feel your arch start to come to life. This combination of lifting from your inside ankle bone as you press the big toe down activates and engages that architecture of your foot. Now, this cue is essential, inside ankle bone high. However, there's another way we can get here. And to define this, I want to go over the structure of the foot a little bit. So, we're going to define 3 points of contact, 3 pads as we'll call them. The first one is on the outer edge of the top of your foot, and it's kind of a roll pattern. This we're going to call pad 1. This is the contact point that should be hitting the ground whenever you walk. So when I step, when I move, this pad is the first point that contacts with the ground. This may take some practice, so if it doesn't feel natural, just understand you're trying to work against probably a lifetime of patterning the other direction. However, every step you take is an opportunity to improve. So remember, as you move forward from this training, what we're doing here, this is not the actual training. This is just priming you for the rest of your life. And every step that you take in your day-to-day, that is the true training. So, pad 1, again, we can also call that the green dot right here. This is the point that your head aligns over when you are walking with your head over foot. Pad 2, the ball of your big toe and your big toe. This pad is crucial for pivoting. So if I am moving side to side, I'm shifting from my green dot, my pad 1 to my pad 2. Make sense? That is your second point of reference. It's also important for pivoting. So if I pivot, I'm moving from pad 1, my green dot, through pad 2. The last point of contact I want to emphasize is your heel. Now your heel is a stopping force. And you already know this, although many of us aren't intellectually connected to the concept, because if I was to ask you, what does it mean to put my heels down, right? I'll put my heel down. It means I'm not moving, right? It means I'm standing where I stand and you're not gonna change my mind. So anytime we have our heels planted down into the ground, we are planting and anchoring into the floor. So every time if you're walking with padded shoes and you are heel striking, you are sending a stopping motion up through your legs with every step that you take, right? So again, we have pad 1, this outer arch, the outside of our foot. We have pad 2, which is the ball of the big toe and the big toe. And we have pad 3, which is the heel. You can think of pad 1 as your gas pedal, pad 2 is your steering wheel, and pad 3 as your brake. When you move your weight onto pad 1, you are going to naturally lift your inside ankle bones up. When you lift your inside ankle bones up, you're going to naturally move onto pad 1. So both of these cues and reference points help you to find the other. However you want to get there, doesn't matter, but the engagement of your foot architecture really does, because everything else that you do stacks from your foot on up. Okay, we're going to train this a little bit, guys. All I want you to do is lift up from that inside ankle bone and shift your weight onto that green dot. As you do this, you're gonna lift your heels slightly off the floor because we don't wanna be anchoring our weight down onto those heels. And then you're gonna press into the ball of your big foot and just hold that. Inside ankle bones high, weight on pad 1. As you do, you're gonna shift your weight head over foot to your left leg and just step the right foot off the ground. See if you can hold that without your arch collapsing, right? If you need to put a toe down to balance, you can. Don't let that arch collapse. Keep lifting that inside ankle bone up, and slowly we'll switch, placing the right foot down. Make sure you have the architecture right. Lift that inside ankle bone high, big toe down, weight on the green dot, and then shift over to that other side. And see if you can hold that position. Awesome. Now let's practice slowly moving contralaterally left to right while shifting from the green dot pad 1 to our pad 2 ball of the big foot steering wheel. So as we come over to the left, keep the architecture of your foot, bring that contralateral reciprocation, opposite hand, opposite leg forward, and then shift, feel the weight move from pad 1 to pad 2, bring your other foot behind and your other hand in front. Taking it left, go slow. If you find this arch collapse at any point in time, pause, reset, re-engage, okay? Taking it to one side, only moving as fast as you can control these mechanics, taking it to the other side. Feel the weight shifting on your foot from that outer arch to the ball of the foot and the big toe. Let's go 30 seconds here, side to side, nice and slow. Synchronize your arms moving with your hands. Keep that contralateral reciprocation of opposite hand and foot guiding this motion, and feel what starts to happen to your spine. Feel the natural rotation. Notice, is your head over your standing leg? Here's how you can check. At any point in time, if you pause, can you lift your back foot off the floor and maintain your balance? If not, then your head needs to be over that green dot, over pad 1, over your foot. Notice what your torso is doing as you rotate. Notice how that rotation of your hands is powering the spine, which is moving your body as you shift side to side. Moving from that green dot, from that landing point. Notice where you land. Did you land on the green dot? Pad 1, is your inside ankle bone high? Shift as you move laterally to the other side. Now, let's try this. Pivot through pad 1 to pad 2. Notice I shift my weight to my other foot. Pivot back to that front leg, and then move laterally to the other side. See if you can follow the pattern here, guys. I'm gonna pivot, moving from the green dot to my ball and big toe. And then I'm gonna pivot back to face forward. Now move laterally, take it to the other side. All right, keep moving slow, guys. Keep that inside ankle bone high. See if you can follow along. We pivot, boom. We pivot, boom. We move laterally to the side. We pivot, feel the shift of the weight. We pivot, one more time each. Move to the side. Pivot, 90 degrees. Feel that inside ankle bone engage, keeping the weight in the head over foot. We pivot and shift to the other side. One more time. We pivot towards the back leg. We pivot to face forward. Very good. Okay, so as we're moving through this, you may have noticed my heels staying off the ground. This is something that animals do very naturally. So if you look at where a heel is located on a horse, it's like halfway up the leg. Or if you look at where a heel is located on a dog or a chicken, like their heel is so far up their leg, you would never think that it's touching the ground. However, humans have lost this natural relationship between their heel and their calf, right? So we've lost this tensioning from the fascial line of continuity that runs from the bottom of our foot up through our Achilles, through our calf, into our glutes. This is known as our back chain. When I say lines of fascial continuity, I'm talking about where force travels through the body. You can go back and watch past episodes to learn more about that. For now, what I want to emphasize is how important this particular line of tensioning is. This is where athletes get their spring, right? It's from this being nice and stable, right? If this is too loose and too floppy, you lose all of that natural tiger bounce, explosive energy. That's why you see fighters, they're always light on their toes. Now, When we're training, we want to try to see if we can consciously tension this angle so that we can develop a little bit more of that spring and athleticism. And essentially what you want to be maintaining is a 90-degree angle, right? You don't want to be too lifted because then you're bunching up the Achilles, and you don't want to be too dropped because then your Achilles is getting lengthened and it's losing all of its spring. So at all times you can think like you're walking on eggshells and you don't want to crush them with your heels. If you guys want to train this, all you have to do is do some bouncing without, again, letting the heels lift. It's not a calf raise, or letting the heels drop. You guys want to try like 20 of those? Do them with me, okay? So lock in that angle of the heel. This is all building on top of what we learned. So make sure that inside ankle bone is high, keeping the arch engaged, and we're just gonna bounce it. Just bouncing and feeling the force start to move up through to your calves, right? Your calves should be the shock absorber. And then up through your calves, they should move all the way to your glutes. Your glutes are the biggest muscle in your body for a reason. They should be absorbing the force with every step you take. But if that line of continuity is not developed, then it's all just gonna get stuck in your ankles and your legs. So again, trying to keep that nice 90-degree tensioning of your ankles, trying to keep that lift of your arch so the architecture of your foot is supportive. Keep bouncing here for 5, for 4, for 3, for 2, for 1. Okay, I'm gonna show you guys some footage of some Maasai warriors so that you can see what it looks like when this is naturally developed to its fullest. And you're not gonna see anything like this in the West. I mean, look at that. That is possible for you, but in order to get there, you have to develop this spring. So to reiterate, okay, we have our inside ankle bones high. We have our weight on the green dot. If we're pivoting, if we're rotating, we're spiraling through the ball of the big toe, right? At all times, we want to keep those heels light, so we have that bouncy big cat energy. Next, moving up through the body. There's 2 landmarks of fascial configuration that I think are really important to begin understanding. Your back chain and your front chain. Now, both of these have a purpose. But before we get into that, let's just start to understand what I'm even talking about. So coming back into your neutral stance again, guys, if you take your hips and you slightly tilt them back, you're gonna feel your glutes start to come to life a little bit. Now, I don't want you to tilt them so much that you start to crunch and compress your spine. So just think a slight tilt and a push back so that your chest is in front of your hips. From there, you're gonna take your thumbs, you're gonna turn them open and out. And then you're gonna look with your eyes slightly up. Speaking of lines of fascial continuity, we're continuing to connect to the one that moves from the bottom of the foot up through the Achilles, up through the calves, up through the glutes, up through the back, and goes all the way to our third eye, that back chain. So when we get that tilt back of the hips, which slightly internally rotates the thighs without collapsing the knees inward, because we have that good architecture of our feet, we have the slight lift up of the heels, we have our thumbs turned back, and then we have our eyes above eye level. We are now in our back chain, right? A lot of animals naturally move this way. You'll see gorillas walk around like this, right? This is an alpha posturing. And what I mean by that is not in the modern day sense of what an alpha means, but in the traditional animal sense, like all the way down to lobsters. Jordan Peterson talks about this, that different lobsters in their hierarchy have different postures. The ones at the top, they're in their back chain. What it is you are exposing your vital organs to the world. When you have your heart open, your belly exposed, like all of your sensitive spots, if you were an animal trying to kill, are shown in a way that displays confidence, not just externally, but also internally. The opposite is front chain dominance. So from the bottom on up, we would tuck our hips underneath us. You're gonna feel your core start to come online. We would turn our thumbs inward, which is going to turn our shoulders inward. And then we would kind of look down to the ground. This is your front chain. So try this. Thumbs turn in, eyes look down, hips tuck under, the core starts to get solid and engaged. Now reverse that. Hips tilt back, eyes look up, thumbs turn open, back chain. Eyes look down, thumbs turn in, hips tuck under, front chain. Hips tilt back, chest in front of hips, thumbs open up, eyes look up, back chain. These 2 points of fascial control have different purposes. Now, your front chain can be a very depressed posture. Like if you see a beta anything, even a lobster, they move in this more depressed, forward-rounded way. One, they're protecting their heart, they're protecting their vital organs. And two, like if you see somebody depressed, this is how they move, right? They're right here. Now, this also has a purpose, right? A wise teacher of mine, Adam von Rothfelder, once said, you know who has a lot of back problems? Powerlifters. They lift a lot of weight in their back chain, focusing all of the load on their spine. They tend to have a lot of back problems. You know who doesn't have a lot of back problems? Strongmen. What do strongmen do? They lift logs, they lift kegs, they lift big boulders. They're lifting in their front chain. And if you think about it, how would you naturally lift something in nature? How often in nature are you loading weight like this? More often than not, you pick something up by rounding down. If it was a big boulder, you would be in this front chain position. They both have purpose, but you want your default position to be much more in your back chain, because this is the upright, moving through the world evolutionary standard. And you can think about a baby, right? When a baby first discovers the world, what do? They start looking up. They instantly come in their back chain. Or you can think about the first animal that moved onto land, right, from the water. What did they have to do? They had to look up. And as they related to gravity and started to put one foot in front of the other, they were in their back chain and they were coiling. So all of this information has roots in our evolutionary origins. In the future, we'll train this a little bit more, but for now, I want you guys to try a few rounds of moving from your front chain to your back chain again. So take the hips, bring them behind the chest, tilt the glutes back, try to feel them come online. Move your weight off your heels, right? Find the inside ankle bone, lift the inside ankle bone up. Turn your thumbs open and out, look upwards. And see if you push those hips back and you keep looking up and you keep turning out through those thumbs, if you can feel that back chain come to life. And then we'll switch it. We'll take the hips, we'll tuck them underneath us. We'll turn our thumbs inward, we'll look down, and we'll see if we can imagine we're carrying a big boulder here, how this would engage our core and be a stable structure to carry a lot of load. So that one more time, hips go back, chest goes forward, eyes go up, heels off the ground, lift the inside ankle bone, turn, open those thumbs, back chain, and switch it. Tuck the hips, look down, round those thumbs in, feel that core engage and connect. How does this relate to the way that we move? So when we move in our locomotive patterns, locomotion being walking and running, we want to maintain this back chain dominance. This is much more efficient than trying to run down here, right? If you're grappling someone, you might want to be in your front chain, but knowing where these different landmarks are is going to help you to define when is the best time to use what. So what you might have come to notice is that as we're moving in these patterns, there is a way that force transfers through our body. It moves in a spiral. So anytime we're throwing, we're walking, we're running, there is a spiral that comes from the turn out of our heel, up through our hips, up through our torso, and up through our body, right? The essential component to tapping into this is knowing that your heel turns out. Just like anybody will teach you when they're throwing a punch, spiraling that heel is the start of where that power generates. And it moves through the torso, right? Spiral the heel, spiral through the torso, spiral the heel, spiral through the torso. Now we talked about the coil, but one way to understand the coil is through a big figure 8. So if you imagine, right, I'm moving through that spiral, you could see how my hands, if you track the pattern, would be moving in a big figure 8. Now this figure 8 can travel 2 directions. Notice how I just switched the direction of that figure 8. This defines 2 directions which our coil of our core can move. It can go from down to up, or it can go from over to under, over to under. You naturally felt this when we were doing our wielding weapons training, right? The 2 directions that your coil could move. These 2 directions define so many athletic applications. For example, if I'm throwing an uppercut, it's an under coil. If I'm swinging a golf club, it's an under coil. Skipping a rock, it's typically gonna be an under coil. However, if I'm throwing a football, it's an over coil. If I'm throwing an overhand cross, it's an over coil. If I'm volleyball spiking a ball, it's an over coil. So understanding these 2 directions that our coils move in starts to give you the opportunity to train that coiling in a way that connects a little bit more to that primal animal nature. So to review, in the future, guys, we will train this a little deeper, but from the ground on up, these are the primal mechanics that begin to unlock your animal power. Inside ankle bone high, lifted. Green dot is what's holding your weight. Pushing down through that big toe to engage that arch, head over your foot. Spiral through the heel. I'm in my back chain. I got my glutes behind my chest, right? I have that contralateral reciprocation that moves my body in a big coil pattern. If I'm moving forward, it's gonna be an undercoil naturally, right? And when you really start to get this head over foot swag and this natural rotation of your coil, you begin to unlock something I call cocky jaguar energy, right? Like, you all know this guy, this dude swags, right? But this is something that can actually be trained. And as you train that innate spiral, you train these animalistic natural patterns, you will begin to develop a deeper connection to your primal source, the way that your body was developed to move, the way that babies naturally move, the way that big cats move in this cocky, confident energy. I look forward to going deeper into the jungle with y'all in the future.